do. On behalf of Sister Cities International, it is my deepest honor to introduce our 2019 Dwight D. Eisenhower Peace Prize recipient to my dear friend, Kathleen Kennedy Townsend. I have to say, there is no one more fitting to receive this prestigious honor than Kathleen. Kathleen Kennedy Townsend has been a leader really all her life. Leading is about making others better as a result of one's presence and making sure that impact lasts for years to come. This is the Kennedy legacy. As the eldest daughter of the great Robert F. Kennedy, no one knows it better than Kathleen. She was Maryland's first woman lieutenant governor. She served as Deputy Assistant Attorney General of the United States. She served as Special Advisor at the Department of State. She chaired the Institute of Virology by Robert Gallo, as well as chairing the Robert Kennedy Memorial and serving on the board of the John F. Kennedy Library Foundation. Her international experience is equally laudable and includes serving on the board of the Export-Import Bank, the prestigious Johns Hopkins School of Advanced International Studies, the Wilderness Society, the Points of Light, I have to say the Points of Light Foundation, and the Institute for Women's Policy Research. I'm almost finished, Kathleen. Kathleen was also a member of the Council on Foreign Relations and her beloved, and I say beloved, Baltimore Urban League. She even served as managing director of, everybody,
temperature too high.
One last thing, but no matter where she is in the world, I have to tell you, the Kennedy Townsend name is respected everywhere. And it's
Kennedy name a bit more.
Kennedy name. She's changing all my whole speech, guys. But also her father's legacy, which was really, his legacy was cemented through his leadership, his mutual respect for people, as we all know, understanding and cooperation, which is what Sister Cities is all about, right? So I will tell you, if President Dwight D. Eisenhower was looking down today, he'd be smiling, because with us today, he knows we are in the heart city, Texas, Houston, Texas, and he would be very proud that we have chosen you, Kathleen, to accept this honor.
Thank you.
Kathleen Kennedy Townsend.
Well, thank you, Christine. Christine, as you see, is my friend, but goes overboard, right? Thank you very much. It is a thrill to be here. I am so excited to be back in Houston. I first came here in 1980, and as you can see, the city has, well, maybe you haven't, because is this the first time you've been to Houston? Well, you're very lucky. It is a great city. You can see it has grown, it is shining, it is a city of hope, and Houston, just so you know, has a wonderful history. When the people of New Orleans were devastated by Katrina, Houston was known as the city that took people in. So Houston has a great heart, it cares for people, and it is also a city of great science. So can we just applaud Houston? And Houston has this week, Houston is in the news because of Rice University. Does anybody know why? Did you think that I was going to give you a quiz? Well, I am. Who knows why Rice University is very important this week?
Because of the youth leadership.
Stand up. We're from? Yay, San Antonio. Is anybody here?
No. Yes.
Okay,
Wow.
that's not the answer I wanted, but it's very interesting.
That's good to know.
Okay, I know this isn't the speech you wanted either, but anyway.
Free tuition.
Amir
Under
said
130K.
that it was important because Rice University is offering free tuition for people. And that would be really nice if every university offered free tuition. Does anybody else want to give another answer? What's your name?
My name is Trace. I'm from Flagstaff, Arizona.
Okay.
And I'm making a guess. We have someone from Arizona. I'm making a guess that their role in the Apollo 11 mission.
Oh.
Yes. Okay. So, I've been asked to give a coherent speech this morning. I sent the speech to the people at Sister City International. I was told be a little more coherent. So I've now gone totally incoherent, and there are two issues I'd like to raise. One, how great Sister Cities International is.
Yay.
And two, the fact that we're in Houston, Texas. Texas, which is a great state, a state of dreams, big state. Also, where John Kennedy at Rice University said we're going to the moon.
Cool.
Which has nothing to do with Sister Cities International. So I'm going to quote that speech first, and then I'll get on to you. Okay? I could do it in the different order. But why start now?
I think I like her.
So John Kennedy, in 1962, went to Rice University, and he said this. And the reason I'm doing this is because we're celebrating the 50th anniversary of the landing on the moon. And he started this in this city. This is why it's so exciting. He said, there is no strife, no prejudice, no national conflict in outer space as yet. Its hazards are hostile to us all. Its conquest deserves the best of all mankind. And its opportunity for peaceful cooperation may never come again. But why, some say, the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why 35 years ago fly the Atlantic? Why does Rice play Texas? That's an inside joke about Texas football. If you really had a good Sister Cities relationship with Texas, you'd know all about football. And he says, we choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we are willing to accept, one that we are unwilling to postpone, and one which we intend to win, and others too. And this week, we are celebrating that the goal that he set was won, and we can all celebrate that we got to the moon, and we can see what can be accomplished when scientists work together and make something happen.
Woohoo!
Thank you, Rice University. Is anybody here from Rice? Oh, well, congratulations. Oh, there you are. Well, why didn't you raise your hand when I asked the question? Weird. I'm going over my 5-minute limit, I can see. Well, as you can tell, I'm totally honored and thrilled to receive this award at the Sister Cities International. You're champions of citizen diplomacy. Each of you are here because you're committed to reach across divides of language, religion, cultures, nations, and each of you find common interests, shared joys, and greater prosperity. You create a better future. You can do it in many, many ways, and I really do believe it's a great honor to receive the Dwight D. Eisenhower Award. As an architect of D-Day, Dwight Eisenhower knew how critical it was to convince the forces from different nations to work together. And it was a tough thing to do. Just remember, who was the head of the French forces? Do you remember who was head of the French forces? De Gaulle. Do you think it was easy to work with de Gaulle? I mean, it wasn't. And he had to get de Gaulle and the head of, the English who thought they were the best, and everybody thinks they're the best. They were called big egos. Have you ever had to work with big egos? It's hard. And Dwight Eisenhower learned that he had to get them to work together. And not only did they have to get along in some ways, he had to also get the logistics right. Where should the ships, tanks, and airplanes sail, land, and fly? This experience reinforced what he'd already learned in Kansas. Is anybody here from Kansas? He learned in Kansas that you rely on people. There has to be trust. There has to be a shared vision. Otherwise, no one will listen to what a leader says. A leader, and I've been a leader, like you can be a lieutenant governor and tell people what to do and nobody will listen to you. You laugh. Not so pleasant. You can shout, you can give orders, but if people don't want to hear, nothing happens. So what you've got to do is get people to listen and to work together. So that's what he figured out. And in 1956, he proposed the Sister Cities program. He knew that leaders are important, but war and peace is won by the attitudes of people. What do teachers, artists, shopkeepers, business owners, politicians think? What are their fears and their hopes, their dreams? Do Americans, for instance, want to have ties with people in Europe, Africa, South America, and Asia? And so Dwight Eisenhower from Kansas knew that we are shaped from our experiences, and he set out to make sure that Americans would broaden their experiences and value the people and art and enterprises in distant cities with imagination and empathy. He was not the first to think of this idea. The earliest evidence of formal community-to-community twinning was in Europe in the year 836. Who knew that? I just always think it's important when you give a speech that you teach somebody new. Between the citizens of Patterdam, Germany, and Le Mans, France.
I looked it up yesterday.
You're not as impressed by this fact as I am, you can tell. In modern times, after World War II, many European cities began the city twinning process to reunify the region. For example, Coventry, England, Stalingrad, Russia, and Dresden, Germany all partnered with one another on a people-to-people basis because they had all been bombed so terribly during World War II, and they wanted to build relationships and learn how to come out of that terrible experience. But nothing matches what Dwight D. Eisenhower started. Now, more than 2,000 cities, states, counties are partnered in over 140 countries around the world. Yours is an extraordinary achievement. Well done. And I know from personal experience how meaningful a sister city or a sister state relationship can be. From Baltimore with Kawasaki, Japan. I want every single person to applaud at least one line in my speech.
Okay, we can do that.
When I visited Kawasaki back in 1987, I was totally inspired, and I came back to Baltimore, and I realized so many students should learn Japanese, so I started something called the Bashu Project. Bashu is a great Japanese poet, and I raised money so that the Baltimore City Public Schools could learn Japanese. I also focused on the maglev trains. You know, in Japan they have great train systems. They're very quiet, they go very quickly. If you haven't been to Japan, you've only lived on American trains, I can tell you they can be a lot better. And I dreamt that in Baltimore and up and down the East Coast we would have these wonderful maglev trains like they do in Japan. I'm still dreaming, but I have friends who are working on the maglev trains still today. And what you learn with sister cities, you have to always dream. Sometimes they don't happen quickly, sometimes you're not John Kennedy and can make it happen in a decade. Sometimes you're Kathleen Kennedy Townsend, you hope they'll happen in half a century. But we did have our 40th anniversary of the city's sister city relationship with Kawasaki this year, and we celebrated many of our art efforts and also our Boy Scout exchange, which has been going on for 35 years. And with Baltimore, we also have a terrific exchange with China, which has helped our trade. In one joint venture, a Baltimore business sent engines to a business in Xiamen, China. Factories in China use those engines in excavating equipment and forklift manufacturing. You may have heard that our governments of China and the United States are fighting over trade.
A little.
You don't read the paper, but they are. So, despite the ongoing debate at the highest levels of government, at the city level, we have a great trade relationship, and we're doing really well.
Woohoo! Thank you.
And Sister Cities has spawned numerous partnerships. Today, the United States, the European Union, Japan, Mexico, and China have the largest members community relationships. And the African continent is currently experiencing the largest rate of growth. Go Africa!
Go Africa!
And one of the things I also love about the sister city relationships is they can focus on particular areas of concern. For instance, my uncle Ted Kennedy was particularly concerned about the Middle East, and Sister Cities developed the Youth Education Network to support his efforts with the YES program, which sponsored Arab students from Palestine, Jordan, Kuwait, Lebanon, and Syria, Tunisia, and Yemen, who lived in the United States for a year with host families and attended a leadership summit in Boulder, Colorado. So think of what you can do if you want to. You can do it all through Sister Cities. I worked in the State Department educational exchanges in the Obama administration. In fact, we had a conference in this very hotel in Houston when I worked there, so it's nice to return. The idea was to get 100,000 students from Latin America to come and study in the United States and vice versa. And what I learned from this experience, just what I learned from Dwight Eisenhower. You work with everyone. Leaders are people with passion, not necessarily people with titles. Citizen diplomacy is nonpartisan. So while I received the Eisenhower Award, named for a great Republican, let me end with a quote from my uncle John Kennedy, a fine Democrat. Okay?
Woohoo!
If a beachhead of cooperation may push back the jungle of suspicion, let both sides join in creating a new endeavor, not a new balance of power, but a new world of law, where the strong are just, and the weak secure, and the peace preserved. Thank you very much.